What's up, East Texas Outdoors? Bart Doty here. Got rained out on a job site today, so thought I'd come to the deer lease, do a little tinkering. It's Tuesday, election day, so please go vote, please. Very important. Even in Texas, let's rack it up, do the best we can. But back to important stuff: deer hunting, deer killing, spending time in the woods, success rate while doing so. Scent control. It is a tough one. Scent control. There's a million hours of stuff on scent control, all over the place. It applies. A whitetail's a whitetail to an extent. Scent control is very important, but the South, where it is warmer, East Texas, scent control is definitely a lot more difficult task, to the point I've contemplated just not even stressing about it. Just wash my clothes, the same thing wash clothes with, body wash, same old stuff I always use, and just hunt the wind. So it's a tough one. That's because of the heat. I'm a big John Ebenhart fan. Watched a lot of his videos. I've tried to adopt a lot of his strategy on scent control. At one time, I was on Scent Blockers Pro Staff, which pretty much was Scent Lock as well. Got a couple of Scent Lock suits, high quality suits, whether you're buying them for the scent control aspect of them or not. They're good hunting clothes, quiet and warm, and zippers hold up, blah, blah, blah. So I've tried to adopt a lot of John's style of scent control, and I can't do it 100%. It's too freaking hot. He wears a face mask. I get it. He wears a face mask, even covering his mouth, so his breath, and I just get so hot. I'll sweat through it, even on pretty dadgum cold mornings, especially climbing trees and doing, okay? So it's a tough one. Scent control is kind of stressful. I mean, it is. It's kind of, I worry about it. I worry about gassing up Jeep, gassing up four-wheeler, I try to be super cautious on that stuff. But when it all boils down to it, if you're hunting the wind, did it matter? Okay. I think it does some. I'm kind of a 50-50 right now. I think you need to do all you can to control your scent, not only for that particular hunt, but your impact on the deer you're hunting days after you're done. This is Tuesday. A deer could walk through here and smell me sitting right here talking to y'all Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know. I got bloodhounds. Supposedly they can pick up a human scent trail 8 days later. A deer's nose, I think, is better than them. So that's pretty crazy to think of. 8 days later, them picking up and trailing something. That's wild. So, with that said, you human beings are a predator, okay? A deer's prey. They pick up on scent, and this gets, with age, they get more sensitive to this, especially big mature bucks and big mature does. They can be absolutely as hard to kill as a big mature buck. Maybe harder. It may be harder. If a big mature doe has fawns with her, she can be every bit as hard to kill with a bow as any buck. I mean, I've had a few does on property. I don't think I could have killed them with a bow. Really don't. They were too good. Couldn't. Tried my best to kill them with a bow. Really contemplated carrying a rifle to stand just shooting them because they would blow me out. I mean, one doe in particular, I'll tell you this story. Piece of private property, had permission to hunt, got some very good deer on it. Had a very unique buck. The first year I got to hunt it, I had a buck with a third main beam. He was a hoss. I mean, probably really wouldn't have scored a terrible whole lot. I think he might would have broke 130, maybe more than that when broke up. But he had a third main beam. This deer was awesome and huge bodied, and I hunted that deer hard. And I had a doe on that property, and it didn't matter if I got there 5 minutes before shooting light or 2 hours before shooting light. The shooting light was 6:30 in the morning. At 6:29, she was blowing, and I'm talking stomping 75 yards to 100 yard circle around me, stomping, blowing forever. I could not outsmart that doe, and not from just one direction. It didn't matter. She was going to walk a circle around me in that spot, and she was going to blow me out every time. It was, I don't think I could have killed that deer. I tried. I don't think I could have killed her. She was too good. It is what it is. I don't know if I could kill her now. I mean, I didn't know then what I know now, but I don't know that I could have killed her. Really don't. It is what it is. She won. She was probably one of the smartest deer that I ever recall trying to, the second or third time she done that to me, I'm like, I'm done with her. Yeah, she gets within bow range, I'm whacking her, period. And I do not like killing a doe or hog or anything at a stand where I intend on killing a mature target buck. I do not. I kill my doe for meat in the freezer, places that I do not have pictures of a deer that I intend on shooting. I just don't. I don't like leaving the scent trail. And I think it has a negative impact of the area. And whether that's from the blood from killing them or from that deer vanishing and her scent not showing up in scrapes and stuff, I just don't do it. And but I was going to get her. I mean, I was going to get her. But she won. I never got her. And I suspect she died of old age because never had that problem again on that property. So that summer, she died of old age, or possibly a car got her. That was a lot of pretty major roads in the area, that particular piece of property. So, yeah, who knows what. But I know she didn't just quit blowing at me when I was there. So she was gone, and I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault. I tried. But back to scent control. East Texas, which is the South, basically, in the heat. Wind, you really need to hunt. You need to hunt the wind. It is, it would be very beneficial. Highly recommend watching some John Eberhardt videos on his scent control regimen. Very, very useful information. Wealth of knowledge on scent control. But I just can't adopt it all. I run hot. I'm hot natured. And I think that's another thing. Deer are different, we're different. Some people freeze to death. I really think, as uncomfortable as it might be to be in the woods on a cold day, the people that generally get cold and freeze have an advantage. I run hot. I guess you say burly, big guy here, all that. So I run hot. It doesn't take much activity for me to generate heat. And when you generate heat, you generate scent. And so that's a whole nother aspect to it, Wind, you got to pay attention to the wind, okay? Heavily. And I think as much as you do pay attention to wind, and as much as you do try your best to be as scent-free as possible, I don't think most people, I know I didn't up until the last few years, realize how much we get winded by deer. I think most all of them do not make a big show out of smelling you. They don't blow and stomp and do, okay? It's obvious when you're sitting there motionless and you don't see a deer and all of a sudden they start blowing downwind. It's obvious they smelt you, okay? I think most deer do not let you know that they are there. Okay, they are prey. You are the predator. You are the foreign smell in their environment. Most all of them. I think blowing goes back to mostly, seems to be mostly does, letting their does, their fawns know there is danger. I'm finna bail. I'm blowing. Look at me. Here's my white flag. I'm out. Something ain't right. Okay. Most deer, and I've seen this more with bucks. They got horns on their head. You know, it didn't matter this big buck, target buck, little buck. A lot of the bucks I've seen did not make a show of smelling me. They did not blow. They didn't do anything. This is what I've seen. I've seen this several times, and if you get to thinking about it in the old memory bank, I'm sure you've seen it too. You're sitting in your stand, and it doesn't matter if it's a bow style stand with very short, shooting lanes and in the timber or on wherever. You catch glimpses of a deer working its way in, from away from you, coming in, working its way in, and that deer locks up. Usually there's a small pause, and usually if you can see it, and you're talking about deer 10 more feet, usually is how this happens to me. I wouldn't see them at all. So there's no telling how many times this happens and you never had a clue that deer was there. But a lot of times if you get the binoculars on them in time, you'll see them pick their nose up. That's no doubt they're utilizing that nose. Something ain't right. Something triggered them. Okay. That deer, a lot of times, almost every time, unless it's a doe with fawns, almost every time will turn and walk straight back the way they came. Okay. They smelt you. Period in the story. They smelt you. Nothing's 100%, 999. They smelt you. Okay. They smelt a predator in their environment, and they turned and walked straight back the way they came, because they just came from wherever they came from, okay, to that point right there, and they didn't get attacked. They didn't get shot. Bobcat didn't get them. Coyote didn't get them. They made it safely from wherever they was at to wherever they locked up and turned around safely. So their mindset is to go back the way they just came from, because that was safe. I did not get hurt. This is my first sign of a potential danger. So if they turn and go right back the way they come, they smelt you. Period. I mean, it's the end of the story. They smelt you. Okay. If they stop, lock up, and turn left, turn right, they might smelt the doe. Hey, that smells good. I'm gonna go check this out. Okay. If they turn and go back the same way, say it again. They smelt danger. Period. Well, what's danger out here? You. We're danger. Okay. To all of them, whether 40 pounds and spotted or 220 pounds with 145 inches horn on their head, they smelt something that was foreign and scared them. Okay. How to avoid that? Always pay attention to weather. Always pay attention to wind direction, and that is for that hunt. Okay. And going back to that, rewinding to that a little bit. I think a lot of these deer, even though, say you got a camera set up, I'm bow hunting mentality here, 30 yards from my stand, my lock on, and it's on a hand chum corn or oat patch or scrape or whatever. Maybe not so much the scrapes and all. Them food sources, okay? And I'm addicted to it. I hunt food sources most all the time. I can't. I'm trying to break the habit and start, hunting scrape lines and all. I do a lot more than I used to. Food sources, I think, mature deer that actually get some age on them. I don't care what direction they come from, 99 out of 100 times on your camera. If they come from that direction, more than likely it originated from the other way. They had come in, and we're talking about big circles, 150, 250 yards, or so, circle, hung out in them woods directly downwind of that spot. Okay, so if you're bow hunting, you're within bow range of that particular spot where you're hoping to kill that target animal. they're downwind to you, and there is zero avoiding that. Okay, there's no way of avoiding if that deer, you know, right here's I'm sitting here on a pipeline deer lease, but here's a little spot where I've been pouring out on pipeline. If that deer's 300 yards downwind to me and a northeast wind, the food source, he's 300 yards downwind to me. There's no avoiding that. So, okay. So all you can do is the best you can on that. Some of them going to outsmart you, is what it is. Some of them going to outsmart you. The best way to avoid that, getting smelt, getting busted on that site, is to study the sign around that area and try to pick up on that deer on their way in to or from that food source. Okay, that can be a tough one. Okay, if you're hunting a small parcel, you know, you got permission to hunt 10 acres. It's really just not available. Okay, so and if you're hunting lease land, I'm on a deer lease here, and you know, I spread out. We're not hardcore like you get your one stand and that's the end of it. You know, we got areas, and I know where my neighbors are, and I know where I can kind of trample out in the woods and try to hunt wind direction and all. And so, but some of them don't have them rules. Some of them, you got your spot and that's it. That's the end of the story. So if that's the case, you really need to be mindful of wind, hunt wind direction. All right, wind in East Texas. Okay. If it's blowing hard, 15, 20 miles an hour, and the leaves are rustling, I don't see deer movement. I just don't. I know there's studies out there that say they move just as much in hard winds as they do with no wind. I don't see it, never have. The rut, there's an exception on that. You know, they get rutting, they'll run through Walmart parking lot during a hurricane, it doesn't matter. So there's exceptions to that, and you can't kill them on the couch. So I go when it's blowing, you know, almost get seasick in the tree sometimes, but I'm gambling. Usually in that case, I'm gambling that last 20, 30 minutes of the day, the wind's going to die and there's going to be an exceptional lot of activity, you know. But no matter what, I'm trying to set up, to the best of my knowledge, where that my scent is blowing away from the deer, where they're at, where they're coming from, where I'm planning on them being. Okay. Exceptions: cold weather, and this goes into thermals. Thermals don't get talked about much at all in East Texas, or maybe even the South, because we don't have a lot of terrain changes, you know, elevation changes, reword that. Thermals is a big deal in the mountains on elk and stuff like that, and, you know, mountain deer, because as air heats up, it rises. As it cools down, it lowers. So you can literally feel on the side of a mountain when a cloud comes over, the wind shift and blow down the mountain, because that air's cooling off, getting dense, and it's going down the mountain. In the mornings before daylight and it's cold up in the mountains and the sun pops up and it hits it, it does not take but a few minutes, and all of a sudden you feel wind going up the mountain. The wind wasn't blowing. It is thermals. It's just the density of the air moving, okay? So doesn't get talked about much in East Texas because for the most part it's really flat, okay? But it needs to be. It needs to be something you pay a little bit of attention to. And it's hard to predict because it's flat. I've heard it all my life, and it is true. I'm not denying this. Them good cold mornings are, man, they're fun to hunt. You see a lot more deer activity. It's cold, they're gonna be up moving. Been hearing it forever, and I highly recommend hunting cold weather because they're a warm-blooded animal. So, you know, I assume they're gonna get up, nibble around more, move around, try to generate heat more. But I think a lot of that is attributed to thermals. When you walked in that morning before daylight on them frosty mornings, you know, sub mid 30s, you know, somewhere around in there, especially in that, I really like them 26, 28 degree mornings where it's just steel, and you breathe and your air you exhale goes straight up, goes up. That's thermals. The air you exhaled is hotter than the air that it got exhaled into, so it goes up. So on your walk into the stand, instead of your scent trail that's continuously falling off of you, you know, like rain, instead of it falling to the ground because you are warm-blooded and that air and that scent is a lot hotter than the air that it fell off into, it goes up. All right, so your walking path is, I've killed some mature bucks that literally followed me into the stand. You know, they walk down the same exact path that I walk down. Okay, that's only happened in cold weather, only. Period. It's only happened when it was cold. I've never had that happen in, you know, any typical October, you know, bow hunting evening. Just never had it happen, you know. I don't think ever, you know, even by a young dumb one. So thermals on them really cold mornings, on your walking and your scent's going up. So you're a lot less detectable on your path to and from. And then when you're sitting in the stand on that cold morning, your scent is going up. It's not falling down. Whether you're sitting on the ground where it would just disperse out, or 20 something foot up in a tree, your scent is going up. It's not going down like a fog and moving. Okay, so cold mornings is an exception, I think, to the rule on wind direction. Okay, it's got to be cold. You got to be able to walk into that stand without getting really hot and generating excessive heat and excessive scent. And then you need to pay attention to weather, which I know it's not always right. They'll throw a curveball at you every now and then. Them really cold days, really cold mornings, typically are, you know, a couple days post frontal. Typically the wind has settled down. So it's them days that they're calling for light and variable, maybe 5 mile an hour wind, typically out of the north here. Okay, usually that wind is not going to start blowing until, you know, mid-morning. Up after, you're not going to hear a leaf rustle until the sun's up. Okay, so you've got a window of opportunity. Even if that stand is kind of the wrong wind, you've got a window of opportunity there where you can get away with it. Okay, now if you watch the forecast, light and variable, blah blah blah, and 8, 9 o'clock it starts like, oh man, it started blowing and it's hitting you in the back of the neck, you need to get out of there. You know, you need to change it up, or change your setup. You would not hurt. I think it's time to bail out on that whole operation. You know, if you're at a spot where you intend on killing a target buck, mature doe, I think it's time to bail. You know, there's nothing worse than getting sure enough smelt with you there. I think that has a worse impact than them smelling you several days after you were in and out, where it's just stronger. You know, you're there, so it's an immediate threat to them. I think it has a bigger negative effect. So it's time to get down and move, or just bail out. You know, okay. Evenings, thermals. Okay, it warms up during the day. You know, unless a cold front comes through. It typically warms up during the day. When the sun goes down, it cools off. If there's no wind to push your scent, the thermals, in a particular direction, they're going to just start going down. And they're going to fan out when they hit the ground. Typically, they're going to go toward the lowest area. Denser air is going to find the lower spots. You ride your four-wheeler to the stand in the mornings, them cold spots are them low spots. Okay, same thing. You're up in the stand, I don't care how high you are, how low you are. When it starts cooling off in the evenings, if the wind is not blowing at all, you can't feel the wind, you puff your breath out and it just kind of sits there, that wind is going to settle in a low spot. So if the spot where you're predicting that deer to come through is lower in elevation than where you're at, you really need to keep that in mind. Most of the time you want to be on the higher ground. Seems to work out better. In that particular case, you don't. You really don't. If there's no driving wind. If there's any wind, that kind of cancels that out, because we're just flat enough around here. Even just a couple miles an hour, you know, it'll keep it going the right direction for you and keep them from picking up on you downwind. Okay, but a lot of times in the evenings it gets really still and your thermal's going to go down, and you're going to alert a target animal. So tough one on scent control. Nothing's 100%. Rut changes everything. You could just get off work and have gasoline on your boots and kill the biggest buck of your life. So you can't kill them at all if you just give up on it and don't go at all. Okay, not saying don't go at all. I'm just saying put some thought into where you are going to go sit. I let the wind tell me what stand I'm gonna hunt. I just do. I don't hunt, and yes, I hunt off what cameras tell me, but no matter what that camera told me, oh man, that big 10 point was in there at 8 o'clock yesterday morning. Would he have been there had you been there? A lot of times, no. I wouldn't have got that picture if I'd been there, because he wouldn't have gotten nowhere close to it because the wind was wrong, okay? So keep that in mind. Have some options. Have a north wind option, have a south wind option, okay? I don't care if you got 1 acre, hopefully you got a couple of trees where you can hunt a north and a south in East Texas. Most of the time the north's a little bit out of the west. The south usually do south, sometimes a little southwest, but you need to try to have a north wind option and a south wind option. If that's not available, do your best to have an east or west where you're approaching and you're looking due east or looking due west. And sometimes you can kind of get away with both right there depending on where they're coming from, especially if you're small parcel of land and that it's only got 2 or 3 sides that are wooded that they're going to come from, and it's got 1 side of pasture. So unbelievable amount of variables there on the layout of the land, but something to think about. Try not to stress out too bad about it. I have at times, and then at times I'm like that with it. I'm done worrying about it. I'm just going to hunt the wind. So good luck out there. Y'all go get them.